Mobius, John Garrod, uh, Gurr. He also used Gurr as a pen name or whatever. Is is absolutely one of my favorite artists. To the point where, like, where do you even start? Well, I guess you start with Blueberry. Now, Blueberry is not a Mobius solo project. It's got a he is the artist. There is a writer uh who is also named Jean Charlier or Charlier. And Blueberry is like, if it weren't for Jonah Hex, Blueberry would be the ultimate like comic book western hero. He's cool. He's a badass. He's Clint Eastwood in the Clint Eastwood movies. If like Clint Eastwood like smiled a lot and had a sense of humor. And I'm not gonna start all the way at the beginning with Blueberry here. I'm gonna start here at Chihuahua Pearl. And the reason I'm gonna start at Chihuahua Pearl is because I think this is sort of more representative of Mobius's art and what I like about it. See, I mean, look how cool that looks. Look at this guy. That's awesome. So, minor amount of backstory before we get started. Mike Blueberry, U.S. Cavalry Lieutenant Mike Blueberry, uh, he's a Southerner who like ran away, joined the Union Army, fought for the Union in the Civil War. Now he's a lieutenant in the U.S. Cavalry. He gets on Western adventures, goes around. It's kind of a ne'er do well. A lot of these stories like start with Mike. At the beginning of the story, Mike is in the brig or in locked up in at the sheriff's. He's a troublemaker. So basically, what happens at the beginning of this story is Mike's riding around. He's on his way to Fort Navajo, and the Mexican army are chasing a dude, and they chase him across the border. Mike's, in the U.S. Army. He's like, you're not allowed to do that, man. You're not allowed to carry out military operations on our soil. What are you doing, man? But then once he runs them off, now he starts chasing the guy. Doesn't go super well, I guess. I mean, really, he wasn't chasing the guy. He wanted to talk to him. The dude freaked out. Not the point. The point is there was a letter with like secret information about yada yada yada. We'll get to it. The secret information leads this guy, that one, to come here and charge Blueberry with a secret mission. Oh, and here we are with Blueberry in the lockup, because of course he is. But what this whole plot is, and the catalyst for all of this, is basically there's $500,000 in gold, Confederate gold, smuggled out of the country in the last days of the Civil War, intended by Jefferson Davis to be used to fund a like resurgent Southern war effort. And that's what the story is about. Not the Southern War effort, but about a bunch of Western outlaw characters and a big drama that all converges on a Mexican town because everybody's looking for $500,000 in gold. It's a great Western story, just like all of these are great, like classic Western story ideas. Oh, I also want to point out, I really like the attention to detail. They even explain the whole thing about how this supposedly played out, and they explain about when which person surrendered. There's lots of attention to historical detail, even though, like, obviously these books and stories are way more based on, like, Western films and, like, early 1900s Wild West artwork and paintings and stuff, but there's still a lot of attention to actual detail, which I appreciate. Also, look at this. It's so cool looking. And I'm not going to go page by page through the entire thing with you here. You need to go read these books. I'm just trying to give you a little taste. But what happened was is they trump up some bullshit charges on Blueberry so that he can have a cover to cross the border into Mexico to fuck around looking for this gold without the people being suspicious that he's actually working for the government. So he gets his posse together, very useful, helpful people like this man. And there's a whole thing, and then hey, we've got uh a band of like I guess dust devils, like post Confederate, like former Confederate soldiers who are now like bandits and reavers or whatever, and they want the $500,000 in gold. That's our one group of people. Well, I guess that's the second group of people because you got the Mexicans want it because that's where they were chasing that guy. So we're already got the beginnings of a classic giant Wild West clusterfuck already happening here, and we're not even on like page 30. And once again, look at how cool all this looks. Like this art is great. That's the main point I want to stress as much as possible is like this art is all great. And I mean, obviously, you got to give like respect to the writing because it's very well written as well. Obviously, the reason I sought these comics out was because I was a fan of Mobius. However, you know, art.
They're just a tool, a means of telling a story. People have a tendency to confuse them as an end to themselves.
Art
Without a story is a pretty boring thing.
Now, I really like the way that Blueberry handles this bounty hunter here, where, obviously, Blueberry knew I'm going to hide my Derringer just in case, because, I'm on the run. And this dude shows up. Pow. I like that sound effect. Classic comic book sound effect. Pow. Paw. But all of the like gunfights, all of the action scenes and the fight encounters in all of these are really good. It's like I would almost describe the way the encounters play out as being like Wild West Dark Souls, if that makes any sense. But what I really appreciate about all of this is the way that he's like making fun of him, where he's like, "You've thought of everything." He's like making fun of him. It's great. But hey, he doesn't kill the guy. He even bandages his wounds up. Because, that Blueberry, he's a good guy, even though he's a thief and a cheat and a ne'er-do-well. And has no sense of military propriety. I mean, not that I care about that, but, whatever. So after one or two other things happen, I guess, he gets found out. Blueberry gets found out. That guy, the fat guy with the gun, makes the priest ring the bell, which is the signal to the dudes. It doesn't matter. The point is that people gonna be chasing Blueberry some more. You see, he's trying to get away. He's trying to lose them so that he can get to this Mexican town where he's supposed to meet a guy who knows about where the $500,000 of Confederate gold is. Also, I should mention these comics are like, they basically have like very really strong classic traditional adventure serial pacing, by which I mean like lots of shit happens like constantly. It's pretty dense. Every single image has so many things going on. Also, pretty funny. Like, look at what this priest is saying here. Ha. And when I say people are going to be chasing Blueberry, I mean people are going to be caught Blueberry. Don't question the grammar of that statement. So the like head federale guy has a plan. They're going to like have one of their guys break Blueberry out of their own camp with the hopes that Mike will lead that guy to where the gold is. Which, Mike doesn't actually know where the gold is. He's supposed to go find the guy who knows where the gold is. But, would you believe someone if they told you that? So Mike makes it to the town, which is called Chihuahua. I don't know if that's a real place or if that's one of those, like, foreign people making up names in languages they don't speak kind of things. Because this comic is French, if you didn't know that. But Mike makes it to Chihuahua. He thinks he ducked the Mexicans. He didn't. They were tracking him. So all the pieces are moving into place. And a great character introduction for Pearl, Chihuahua Pearl. That's not like... Obviously, Chihuahua is the name of the town. The idea is that she is Pearl, like, of Chihuahua. They're not They're not saying that's her name. But it's a great character introduction because at first it's like, oh yeah, it's the hot showgirl. That's fine. That's a detail. But then, like, oh no, this is one of the major characters, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to talk about Mobius and his art and how cool this is. Just look at this. Just look at these shots here. Like, it's great. It's moody. It's dramatic. His art is detailed and realistic, but also cartoony and expressive. And his approach to detailing is very interesting. I mean, just look at all this. And it's like different faces in the crowd even. But then yada yada yada, there's a whole thing, signal, secret password, half of a dollar bill. And now we get to talk about Pearl being one of the main characters because she's the one that sent the letter with the information that led to the yada plot, yada yada. She's the whole like impetus for Mike being here and all of what's about to happen in what did I call it earlier? The colossal Wild West clusterfuck. Because we're coming up on that, and we're coming up on that here in the next part of the story, the $500,000 man, which is just a great goddamn title. That's a Western title if I've ever heard one. So here's how things stand at this part of the story. What we know is that there's a guy in the prison in the local I don't know the Spanish word for governor. It's something that sounds like governor, but that guy, his local like palace slash fortress slash prison work camp. One of the guys in there knows where the gold is, and all these people, all of these Wild West characters are about to get up to some shit about that, you know? And before we get too far into this, I want to take a second to maybe explain something that might not come across in this format of me, like, just kind of jumping around and then breathlessly explaining the plot. But what's the things that are good about the writing here? Like, all the characters are like super endearing. All the good guys are endearing, and the bad guys are bad guys. Like they're not the most. These are not like the most complicated characters ever, or anything like that. Generally, the characters in these stories are very straightforward, but they're well written for the types of characters they are. The heroes are likable. Blueberry is a great character. Like I said at the beginning, if it weren't for Jonah Hex, he would be the like ultimate comic book Western hero. Great characters in fun scenarios, and the scenarios are always really really good Western premises. The way everybody plays off of each other, it's always like pitch perfect. It's very well considered dialogue, and again, the pacing is really strong. Classic adventure serial type, snappy, constant pacing. So here we are back at the plot. Blueberry got chased around a little bit, and some stuff happens. People run around, plans are happening, and then he's done gotten himself caught. And now he in this Mexican prison. You know, he's made a deal. Mike has made a deal with the like Mexican governor in this area who runs this place. And both of them intend on betraying the other one, and both of them know this. So, you know, that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool character dynamic, I guess. So he's supposed to find the guy who's in the prison, who has a fake name, who is actually like a Confederate colonel or something, who knows where the $500,000 in gold is hidden. Mike meets this guy, who is a guy who says he has like a plan to escape, but he needs another person to help him get out. And so they do some plotting. So there was some plotting with the bad guy characters, the governor and the magician, who I haven't really talked about because, yeah, you know, whatever. Mike finds Trevor, which is the Confederate dude, and Mike and Butch. Butch is the guy who has the plan to escape, and the three of them plan to escape. And I want to talk about this escape sequence because it's really cool, all right? Oh, and also those other Confederate guys are hanging around as well. They're playing like, as he says, hide and seek. They're playing some cat and mouse with the Mexican army as well, because they're also here. Everybody's looking for that gold. So they make this whole plan where they're going to take advantage of the way that the guards treat like sick prisoners, and they're gonna like do a swap, steal a guard's clothes, sneak out, basically like hitman style or like thief, like sneaking in between the guard patrols in a stolen guard outfit. But then simultaneously, also these people are plotting. Pearl and Red and Jimmy McClure, the horrifically racist Irish stereotype. And this is actually pretty clever, and I like that. Like their plan involves a fake plan that they that they deliberately let the treacherous magician overhear them explain very loudly. So that's fun. It's like they let the bad guys think they got one over on them, but really, like, there's a whole other plot here, which is completely not related to the plotting happening inside the prison. And so then the bad guys are plotting, and then also these like people are plotting also because of other information they got from the other like spy stuff that's going on. And then remember those Confederates from earlier? Well, like they have met up with Red and Jimmy, and now they have a whole plot which is related to the plot with Pearl. And this is all happening. See, that's the thing. This is where things get really fun because this is where the plots start to dogpile. This is where like all of the running threads that have been happening the whole time with the like ensemble character drama thing all start to converge at one location. This is at least this is the first of the again, as I said, colossal Wild West clusterfucks. That this is what I mean is when all of the running plot threads come together with all these people, all these plans, most of whom have no idea what the other people are planning, and like I said, that's when things get crazy. So plot one is initiated when Mike and Butch do their hitman swap, and then plot two is initiated when Red and Jimmy and the ex-Confederates come in with their dynamite plan. And then I guess you could say plot three is initiated here, where Mike enacts his plan to also bring Trevor along. And this is what I mean. When things kick off, everything gets started in the same, like, 2 pages. Oh, yeah, and this is way badass when Blueberry goddamn lassos a dude. So they sneak past the guard patrols, pass through the gaps, and then Mike lassos that guy, and they're able to sneak up to the wall. But then, oh no, Butch betrays them. This is like, it turns out plot number 4 had already started before any of this happened. Oh, then and Trevor just fucking shoots the guy, which is Wild West as hell. But so how are they gonna get out of this? They seem like they're caught. How do they escape from the guns of the federales? They don't. They just get taken away to get tortured. So that's where this plot thread is right now. But boom, shift gears again, and here we are with Pearl is pulling her, I guess, double reverse Las Vegas maneuver with the sham marriage to get all of the troopers out. Because, of course, the bad guy is enough of an asshole that he wants to take all of his soldiers to be a giant honor guard at his, like, sham wedding. And then Fu Manchu shows up as the, like, Mexicans torture expert. They have a Chinese torture expert. I'm not sure why, but they do. And here we go. They start this. They start the stampede, and they dynamite a hole in the wall. Then the stampede runs through the hole in the wall into the like Federale Palace. Actually, this is far from the first time a stampede has been a major plot element in one of these stories. I think they might have stolen it from Kimbo the White Lion. So after they bomb their way in, and they use the stampede to help them kick the asses of the small garrison that was left behind in the prison. Now we have another classic Western scenario where a bunch of people are working together who would totally love to just, like, shoot each other, but circumstances have conspired. Then they get out, they free all the prisoners, let them into the armory so that they'll be there to fight off the rest of the troops, just be a big distraction. And Mike wants to go back and like save Pearl and like go into the town, and they like just hit him in the back of the head. That actually happens a lot. That happens several times in this story in particular. That like Mike just gets knocked out to prevent him from like doing something stupid. And the thing is that Pearl is like perfectly goddamn capable of getting herself out of this situation. Thank you very much. She just pulls a gun on the dude and walks out of there. Bye, guys. She even thought way ahead and was wearing appropriate Western horse riding attire underneath her wedding dress because she knew she was gonna bomb out. What a hard ass. I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. And more or less, this is how this part wraps up. I mean, obviously, the story still continues. This is in several books, and this is the end of book 2. They get to the hideout, and check this out. Like, this is a great example of some of the stuff that Mobius is really good at. Look at those rock formations. Look at this, like, how cool this location is. And then Mike gets knocked out again. And this whole story wraps up. Confederates dudes leave. We get a little bit of backstory, whatever. Point is, Confederate dudes leave. They take Trevor with them. And they leave Mike and Pearl and Red and Jim behind with basically like no supplies, no horses, like nothing. With Lopez's forces on the way for them. So this story wraps up with everything fucked, which is a great way to end a Western tale. And then again, the great title. These stories all have great titles. Ballad for a Coffin, sick. So I really like all these books. Like Blueberry's great, like I said, great character. All these stories are great. Mobius's art is beautiful and gritty and awesome. These two books here, this story arc, I guess I'll review these two. I get like a 7.5 out of 10. Great art, really solid, like straightforward narrative. Really well written, good dialogue. I mean, some of that's on like the translators because again, these books are French, so you got to give credit to the translators. Most of the dialogue is like well done, and of course, like the art is amazing, as I said a bunch of times, and I'm gonna say it a bunch of times because it's awesome.
One of the fatal mistakes that almost every science fiction film makes is that they spend so much time on the settings, creating the environment, that they spend film time on it. And you don't have to spend too much film time to create an environment. What they're doing is showing off the amount of work that they generated. And it slows the pace of the film down. And the story is not the settings, the story is the story, it's the plot. You're always surprised with characters. I mean, in film, it's even more dramatic than it is in writing, because eventually you actually take a real person and stick them into that character. And that real person brings with him, or her, an enormous package of reality. I mean, 3PO is just a hunk of plastic. And without Tony Daniels in there, it just isn't anything at all. In the first film, we had maybe 20 colors to paint with, and this time we've had 40 colors to paint with. Well, it doesn't mean it's going to be a better painting.